Welcome to the KVJ After the Show podcast.
Kevin's eyes look insane, but he's got new hair. Virginia is a witch, and she farts in her chair. Jason is a spaz who's got an old man's ass. Welcome to the After the Show podcast.
All right, hello, and welcome to the KVJ After the Show podcast. Happy Friday, everybody.
Yeah, Friday.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is the full moon, and it's supposed to be a pink moon, so I kind of love it.
Yeah, we love pink around here.
What does the pink moon mean? What's that all about?
I just saw it somewhere. It said a full pink moon. I was
Wow,
like,
okay.
ooh.
Sounds kind of
It's fabulous. It's Easter, so it kind of goes with the color scheme.
when is Easter?
Easter is next Sunday.
Okay.
Not
Yeah.
this Sunday, but next Sunday. So a week from this Sunday.
Pink moon kind of sounds a little carnal. No?
You see what you want to see.
Well,
It's true. Depends on how you like it.
the moon will bring out the animal in you.
Well, I got some things to get to here and some good questions that I don't even know if I have the answers to. Nicole was catching up on the ATS, heard about the Drunken Tequesta Brewing podcast and the infamous Halloween one, and she was going back looking for old episodes, and she said it looks like the ATS and regular show only go back to 2017 and YouTube. On YouTube and a little later on Spotify. Is there anything I can get before 2017 that is KVJ?
Denny's!
Yeah, good question. I don't know. I mean, we started here, and this is when we really we've been doing the same stuff digitally, I think, since then. Now, we had KVJ TV going back, probably 10, 15 years?
Yeah.
We had it back at our old station,
Yeah,
too.
we did that all the way back, and that had to be probably 15 years ago, I would say, probably around 2010. We had that. It was very rudimentary, and it looked like it was recorded on a flip phone.
Because it probably was.
Yeah, but that was KVJ TV. I remember we had it when we were at our station in Broward. And then we've definitely had the current setup that we have now. So we are going on 2014. So we're 11 years on this. And then I'm so excited for the new system we are going to have because our video, I look at it now, I'm like, gosh, it could definitely improve, and it will by a ton when we get in that new studio sometime in 2028. So
Our video doesn't look that bad if you squint, kind of. Then it's not as bad.
yeah, okay.
I'm being a dick.
Yeah.
It could be better.
What do you know about this, Denny's, as far as archives go?
So I think it does only go back to 2017 as far as this setup, because before we used to stream live on Facebook. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
right.
We didn't simulcast.
Yeah.
And then we stopped doing Facebook because their copyright got real strict. And that's why we switched to YouTube.
So stuff that we done in 2014, 2015, does that exist anywhere?
Yeah, I would say.
Audio, at least?
So the audio, if you go on the podcast,
Mhm.
you can go all the way back to 2014
Because what
Okay.
we could
with
do,
this show.
what
All
we
right.
could do is take the audio and at least upload that to YouTube with
Yeah.
some pictures. At least people would have the audio, and it'd be easy for people to at least listen to it and
Oh,
grab.
that's a good
reenact it.
idea.
Yeah.
We could reenact it.
Or just
Yeah.
just take the audio and put some pictures up. So many people do that.
Yeah.
'Cause
Okay.
I think you're right. I don't think there is video for that.
No, I think there's 3 years where you guys were on Facebook, was what you were streaming on, and then we were
Okay.
streaming on the website of the old, when we first got here, which was
Okay.
Digity.
All right. Yeah.
How'd that go for us?
Well, the problem with that is you can't find those videos on YouTube.
Yeah, they're gone.
So many great things we've done are no longer available.
I can name at least 10 things that it wasn't either filmed or it got lost. Some of it just didn't even get filmed, like your birth of Rocco.
Yeah, we've talked about this. We've had this conversation before, and the man hours that it would take to go back, get it, publish it, edit it, get it ready for consumption would be considerable. And it is possible that one day we could hire a crew to go back and kind of do all that kind of stuff.
If there was a
because-
team, they could definitely do that.
Yeah. And so the discussion is, there are some shows and with some things you have to, you can do kind of a subscription to get archives. And that might be something that we'd look into, because unfortunately with, we're a team of 4, and to do the show every single day, there's just not any time to, work that into the regular mix of preparing for shows moving forward to go backwards and do that. So
extra old editing. We don't have that person.
No, we do not.
We don't have that time, and it's too much.
We'd have to hire them, and but we've talked about that. At how much would it cost to hire them or a team to do that, and then how much would we have to charge to be able to access that to make it so? Look, it's not that we're looking to get rich on that. We're just looking to be able to afford to be able to do it. But that might be something in the future that could happen. We might continue to look on that. If we think the demand is there, that people would be like, oh, yeah, I'd love to. If I could pay $2.99 a month and get archives to go back for the history of KVJ, then, we could sick a team on that and be like, hey, just try to pull up everything you can and repurpose it on modern platforms.
So audio podcast, you can go back to 2014 August. And that's where it all started, from here at least.
Okay.
So before that, I don't know what you guys archived the older shows on.
But we should absolutely take the Halloween show and the other show that we get requests for them all the time, and people can't find them easily. We should just put them on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, that would be it. I mean, look, my dream and the way that we try to do KVJ, especially where we are now and moving forward, is we really try to make everything so it's very easy for the consumer to get, to find, to access, to watch, view however you want. I mean, we're doing new stuff with the YouTube channel. We're putting up a lot of clips every single day individually, so you can watch that easier, and adding in added video to that afterwards and whatnot. So yeah, we're trying to, from here on out, we're trying to be very good with what we're doing and making that very easy. And I think all the stuff from now to as we move forward will be there, easy for you to access. But yeah, the old archive stuff, I would love to be able to get that, because we could replay some of it. And I know a lot of people would love to go back and see some of those moments.
And some people didn't listen to our show back then.
Absolutely.
So we reference an old, even Aunt Anne stuff, or my mom, they go, who the fuck is Aunt Anne?
Yeah, to have a section where you could just go and watch every single segment we ever did with your mom or your aunt, that'd be a dream.
As far back as Grandma Buell's too.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be amazing.
Even just that audio.
Yeah, just any of that stuff would be absolutely fantastic.
I've got audio of her on CD.
Yeah,
Nice.
right.
Granny Beulah.
Yeah.
I'll say, as far as back as our archive goes, is 2014.
Okay.
So
Yeah, so one day, maybe we will get there. Try to make that happen for you. We'll see how it goes. I got an email here from Kristen and Stuart. She said a funny little observation about the Crawfish Fest cups that I saw. So I have to really ask, who did the branding on the first cup that had suits on it? Because you guys actually didn't even have the KVJ logo anywhere on the cup.
I know.
She said, have Virginia look at her cup, and she has on her desk area. It showed it yesterday on the show. You guys were talking about these cups, and all I can think of is if I were handed this vintage cup somewhere and I had no idea who you guys were, I would think this is the strangest cup ever, because it's just people's faces floating on it and then some lady dancing in a crawfish outfit. But I would totally want to go to their festival. Anyway, I thought it was funny. And it took Suits leaving before you guys finally slapped the KVJ logo on there to make it make sense.
Yeah, I never noticed that.
That's funny.
Shit's
And
funny.
Just 5 people. We don't know who they are.
That's a vintage cup.
randos.
Yeah, just random people. Enjoy it. There you go.
I'm not on the cup committee, but I should be.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That is a separate entity, so it handles itself. It's its own thing. And at the time, I couldn't even be a part of it because I had a conflicting golf car sponsor that I had. Remember, I had Icon golf cars, and so Beachside golf cars did the cup. So I literally had nothing to do with it because contractually I couldn't.
Okay.
So I was completely removed from that biz.
Gotcha.
But the new one, when they did take Suits off, they put the KVJ logo on it.
Okay, that's good.
Look, you lose a member, you gain a logo.
Yeah.
Radio's cheap.
And Stephanie here said, I'm about a week behind on the podcast. So this was something that you talked about last week. Very important for you to hear me out on this, because I am a huge supporter of you guys. And anytime you talk about the service industry, you're usually such a big supporter of us. I've been in the service industry for 25 years, and I was listening to how you were talking about barbacks cleaning at 820. when the establishment, and I don't know when the establishment closed. Maybe it did close at 9. I don't know. I just know it was 8:20, and they're kind of going through the bottles and cleaning everything up. I'm like, all right, I guess it's time to go. She said, I don't know why this makes you feel uncomfortable. Maybe after I explain myself, hopefully you'll understand a little bit more from our side. When we close at 9, we usually would like to be to the point where we have all the paperwork to do, which still takes a significant amount of time. If we started to close our bar down and do all the necessary things at 9 when the establishment closed, we wouldn't be able to do the paperwork until about an hour later, because it takes about an hour to clean and sanitize all the surfaces, all the sinks, wash and polish all the glassware, do silverware as needed, wipe down every single bottle, see behind the bar, clean and rotate any of the bar fruit. I could go on with this list, but some of the key things that need to be done. I know you guys don't see it, but it's a lot of work to shut down a bar. So don't feel uncomfortable. We're not trying to rush you out. We're just trying to get home at a decent time. We might have kids or whatnot to get home too.
Well, I think they're misunderstanding what we were saying. I was coming from the viewpoint of when servers or people in the restaurant do make you uncomfortable. I understand you have to start doing your prep. Yeah. It's when you start making the customers feel like they have to get out of there and it's not close to the closing time. Yeah. I get that you got to do all that, and of course do that. It's when and there are some servers that have done that before, going, it's 8:20, we close at 9, you can't order that, or you can't do this, you can't do that. And there's a big set of rules there. Yeah. I don't think that's a good business model. But yeah, if you got to clean up and start your prep, I get that.
Yeah. And I had noticed this because it is a chain of restaurants that I love. I'm a big fan of them, and they're great. And we had been at one of their locations down south, and they had done that. And my wife noticed. She was the one that had made a comment to me, and it is what it is. And, her point was that when you have a bar or restaurant open, it should be like a theater production where the curtain opens, you put on a show, you're entertaining people, they're there spending their money, you want them to feel amazing. And my wife and I are very in tune. I listen to every song, to everything. To me, it creates an emotion in you, because I love bars. I always have. And the science behind it. And if I had a place, and I noticed when we went to another of the chain's places, they were doing the same thing. So it must be, but I've never noticed it anywhere else. And we aren't out that late often. And to me, I still feel that way. And I still agree with my wife that if I had a place, and I understand what your comment is, absolutely, Stephanie, I get it, wanting to get out there at a decent time, but I still believe that, and I like hearing your explanation, but it's still, when you're sitting there, you feel like, because we were wanting a drink and I would have gotten another one, but they were distracted by cleaning up.
And that's not right. And that's bad business.
Yeah. And so that's why I said, if I had a bar, I wouldn't have that. I'd try to come up with a compromise and a solution to say, I firmly believe that when you open the doors, it's showtime. And then when you close, the curtain closes, and then you can do all that kind of stuff. And I still feel that way.
Yeah, I think you can do some stuff prep without making the patrons feel. There's stuff you can do, I feel, that you can start getting ready without compromising the peacefulness of your patrons.
Right, because what had happened, I think they had 3 to 4 people, and all of them were doing the bottle cleanup, and there was nobody really checking to see if somebody needed a drink. And that happened at the other location that we were at as well. That's why my wife commented. She's like, well, I would have loved to have got another wine, but I can see they're all busy. And so, both times we didn't get the extra drink because they were distracted cleaning up. And I just thought, you guys, how many drinks are you missing every single day that you could have made overall?
That's bad business. And if they don't, they got to close earlier. I mean, that's part of the gig. You have to stay open until the doors close. And I understand you don't want to stay late. Nobody wants to stay late, but that's part of the gig.
Yeah. So I understand what you're saying, but I still feel like I feel the same way that, look, if I had my own place, it's all these little things that the margins are so small to make a bar and restaurant work in South Florida, especially.
You're right.
That to me, that's a difference maker. And, look, my wife, she loves bars too. And we spend a ton of money in bars. And she's the kind of person where if something like that happens, she's never going back.
Would you have been cooler, or would the queen have been cooler if, let's say, they were cleaning up a little bit, but you still got your drinks? They were able to do both and still make it to where you didn't lose out on the drink, but they were still able to kind of start to get their stuff done. Are you against that?
No, I don't feel as bad about it. and my thought on that would be, well, you need to probably have at least one or two people still look. Two can clean if that's what it is, but two still got to make sure that everybody's getting their drinks. When all four, which is what was happening, was they were obsessed with cleaning and getting out. There's like, hey, no, okay, hey, hello. Yeah, like nobody was watching to see where we were with the drinks.
I get you got to do some shit, but you can't be missing out on drinks. That's just bad. It's John Taffer. What are you doing? It's
why?
Well,
And you all have your back to the customer.
Yeah,
it's just not right.
That's shitty.
And to think about it, if that happens day after day after day, and I had to talk the queen into going back into this place because I love it. Like I said, it's one of my favorite, bar restaurants in South Florida, the chain of them. And I always have a good experience. That's the only knock that I have about the place at all. But you've missed at least 2 or 3 drinks from the Ralstons. So add that up over time.
Oh yeah, no, you're losing money.
Right,
and
exactly.
You shouldn't ignore your customers while they're in there.
Yeah. So, Mike's saying as long as they're not trying to rush you out, make you feel uncomfortable. And that didn't happen. But, I'm just going to have to agree to disagree because, like I said, if I have my own place, I'd be like, let's just make sure that we don't ever have our backs turned to the customers where somebody's wanting a drink, but they just feel like, okay, they're not really that important because that's how you do feel. Body language is huge. And it's all those little things that the body language of a back turned to me and I'm sitting there for probably 10 to 15 minutes and I don't get a drink. Then I'm like, all right, well, I guess they don't want my business.
Ralston's rib crib. I can see that.
I mean, literally, they don't want your business. That's what they're saying. If their back is to you and they're doing something else and no one's asking you how you're doing, that is your answer. They don't want, the crew doesn't want you to stay. Now, how would the management feel about the crew making you feel that way? I think there's going to be a disconnect there. The management would not like the fact that the doors were open and no one was speaking to the customer for 15 minutes.
But it is unique to me that the only 2 times I've ever noticed it, it's the same chain.
What's it rhyme
and they
with?
were in different cities.
Can you say what it rhymes with?
No, because it's you completely get it. And somebody asked if it's Flanagan's. It's not Flanagan's. Yeah, so that I haven't noticed that there. So yeah, I don't know if it was a coincidence or what, but and I do understand. I know what they're trying to do, and I have sympathy with that. But that would be my challenge if my staff came to me. I'd say, okay, well, let's try to find a compromise here, and it would probably be let's divide off. You two clean, and we still need to make sure somebody is face forward to every person sitting at that bar at all times.
When you do open up Ralston's rib crib, if it closes at 9 p. the doors and you get ribs till 9 p.
That's it. I would just tell them, be like, look, this is it. While the doors are open and we're clearly open, it is a show. You've got to make them feel like they're the most important person on the planet. And with backs turned to them, they don't feel that way. Just so you know.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong with what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're speaking from the customer's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And the back was turned to you, and you couldn't get served.
Yeah,
it's that any bar rescue episode, Taffer would have that ass.
You're right.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to have him here to be like, how do you feel about the challenge of cleaning up? What would you tell one of your bars and how they should handle this?
3 words.
Yeah,
shut it down.
I don't know if he shut it down over there, but. I mean, when he shut it down and I was there, they were about to serve raw chicken. And
wow.
There was cross-contamination in the kitchen and he shut it down. I don't know if he shut it down for this, but he would fuss. He would say, you don't turn your back to the customer and no one even looks or speaks to Kevin for 15 minutes. And the guy's sitting there and he wants a drink and no one's helping him. Like, that's not how you run a bar.
And when I worked at the golf course, the guy who's running it was annoying. But I tell you what, he made sure all of the people that were at that golf course had a good service experience. If you were standing around eating something, he would chew your ass out. If you were not walking up to somebody and not pointing, I mean, he beat customer service into your brain to the point where, you didn't like it because you had to do a lot more work, but that was the standard of it. And I get that's a fancy restaurant, that's a fancy club, but you're right. If you own a restaurant, you're competing with everybody.
Yeah,
it's a show.
Yeah, and the one thing I would say, if I ever did, and I don't think I will, but if I ever did a bar or restaurant, the most important person you hire is that manager. To your point, I have seen so many bars where I've known the bar manager and I've seen how good they are. places turn and flip, man. In fact, I remember you remember the old Gatsby's way back in the day on Village Boulevard?
Yes. Yeah.
I used to know that guy, would work out with him, always talk to him. And I remember the days like, yeah, I left, I'm going back to Dallas. I was like, oh man, well, I just hope they are going to be okay without you. And Gatsby's, they took a nosedive, and that place was jammed. Ladies' night on Wednesday night.
Wow.
And it was a month later. And I was like, you could see the effects of just having Mike was the old manager. And when he left, the place did a nosedive. And I was like, it's important because he was always just scanning and looking and be like, hey, do this, do that, do this, do that. And, you know, I don't know how staff feels about that. It's like, oh, gosh, get off my ass. But he created an environment and he was orchestrating the entire thing the entire night.
You ever go to a restaurant and there's not a lot of people there, but there's 5 to 6 workers and they're all doing prep and nobody comes up to you and takes your order. All they're doing is prep and doing all the other side shit while the customer's right there. I don't think that's a good move.
No, it's a terrible way. Look, people have got to always feel like they are something special when they walk into a place. That's what people want. You look at why people are regulars at bars, and that's why I've studied. I go into some places and I see people there all the time. In fact, I'll name them because they do it great. That little Lindberghers that my wife and I have gone to, they have the same people sitting in the same bar stools night after night. But I look and man, they are so attentive and they come around and they make you feel like you're part of the family. You just want to belong. My wife and I have joked about like, hey, we hope that we become insiders one day.
But a lot of that is the culture of the management.
It is. It's culture. The culture it runs it through every business. It runs through radio shows, sports teams, bars, restaurants, whatever. And it's established by the owners and the manager. And having that culture and that feel and that vibe. And you walk into a place and you just feel it. You can see how people are interacting. A smile on their face, their body language, all that kind of stuff.
It's crazy because there was a place I would always brag about their customer service. I don't want to call them out because I still do like them, but I have noticed their customer service is so shitty. When you used to go in there would be smiles and talking and hello. Right. And now when I go to say hello to somebody, I get ignored.
Yeah. They're toast. They're toast.
I don't think I know what you're talking about.
Because I've seen a massive, massive shift in attitude. And this is a place I have blown on the air.
Yeah.
Nope.
That's not it.
It has gotten real shitty.
Peanut butter and jelly?
No, you're not accidentally say it.
These always go so well.
Your handwriting is terrible. It looks like the murderer. Okay.
I can't say it.
You can't say it.
Yeah.
But yes, I've just noticed that is a difference, and I don't go there nearly as much because it's not as friendly, because it's not as nice.
I can't tell you how many places the Queen and I have walked out of, and we're like, they'll be closed in 6 weeks. And sure enough, boom, gone. You can just see it. You can feel it, and you're like, they don't have it anymore. They've lost it. And look, South Florida is so competitive.
Yeah,
that if you start having, you string a couple bad nights back and forth, and you have the people who are regular bar attendees that kind of write you off like we are. And yeah,
dude, restaurants have fans. It's like anything. Yeah. It's like anything else out there.
Right.
There's some people that really get behind a restaurant as if it's a team.
Yep. No doubt about it. Got an email here from Mike. He said, I heard you reference the Lucky Beaver bar and burgers. It is a great burger and an even better t-shirt. Y'all have a special chemistry on the show. I appreciate you guys for making me laugh. Sorry about the Denny's eyes. There he is, and he does have Denny's eyes. He's got producer Denny's eyes.
That is awesome.
Yep, there you go.
The Lucky Beaver.
Where was that place? I can't even remember. We had that the other day.
I think we were talking about that on the same day we were talking about the sugar tits.
Yeah, I think it was. I can't remember where it was, though. And Leanna said you were talking about Ed Sheeran. He loved the Whataburgers and how they weren't in Florida. She said, we did have one in Newport Richie, and they only lasted about 10 months.
Oh.
Yeah, that's another thing on the restaurant thing. It's so weird that regionally, sometimes places work, and you wonder, be like, why would you not bring In-N-Out here? Why don't you bring Whataburger here? Why don't we have Jack in the Box or some places like that? and more White Castles. What is it about that? And maybe there's a reason that just regionally the sensibilities of that area, it doesn't jive for whatever reason.
And maybe too, like the people that own it don't want to grow, because sometimes you can grow too fast and get too big, and you don't have the team in place to manage.
Yeah. Do you remember the old sports theater? It used to be at City Place.
Yeah.
That was my place. I hung out there all the time and I loved it. And the same thing, they fell apart. And I had kind of known the manager there who was so good. He was on top of every athletic game and he would be changing the audio and the games perfectly as they happened. He was
so invested in his job.
Yes. And I remember talking to him when they were I'm like, what happened? He said, we grew too big too fast. They opened a bunch of chains in North Carolina and he said, we didn't scale it right. And they bankrupted the company.
Damn.
And they were in such a groove. But yeah, you're right. They got too big and they thought, well, this is doing so great. And again, to that point, they may not have had a good manager because they had a killer manager at City Place.
Totally.
He was all over it. They were crushing it.
It's all about the team you have running it. Mm-hmm. If the team can't keep up the standard of the high service in the region where you're successful, it's going to bring down the rest of the company.
Yeah, absolutely. Dog trainer Bailey has got something here for us. She said, I heard you talking about the dire wolf hoopla that came out on Monday. It's been a massive part of pop culture. I just wanted to send out one of the many resources I've been seeing discrediting these so-called dire wolves. If you saw that story, I think we talked about that on Monday, where they took a regular, I think it was like a white wolf or something along those lines, and they were able to extract the genome of a dire wolf from maybe a tooth, and they had a skull fragment that was like 75,000 years old or something insane like that.
They're going to hybrid it with a T-Rex dinosaur.
Yeah. They were.
Wolfosaurus?
Oh my gosh, a Wolfosaurus would be next level. Could you imagine that shit?
Yeah.
There's your Halloween costume.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because there were some people, in fact, I saw Ron McGill of Zoo Miami. He was on a national program talking a bit about it, and he wasn't really jiving with it.
Oh,
he
really?
didn't love it. And he said, look, and especially now, sometimes we're responsible as humans for some animals and species going extinct, and that can be problematic. But sometimes nature just says, you've had your time. We need to make room for another species. And he said, nature is so interconnected. You look at that, like we were talking about the big problem of bumblebees not being around. It'd be like, oh my gosh, it's just everything is linked together. And sometimes that's what nature does. It's like your time is over and you being here, these other species can't thrive because of you. Uh-huh. And they've done that for a reason. Nature knows what it's doing. We are going against nature. And you can see that's never really a good thing. And so Ron McGill wasn't a big fan of it.
But Barbara Streisand's got to be able to clone her dog, Kevin.
Yeah, right.
Of course humans fuck it up.
Yeah.
Of course we do.
Now, this is on reviving a species that naturally went extinct. And this is Colossal Biosciences. And they got a couple celebrities in it, including... is it the guy that did maybe the Game of Thrones guy is involved with it? And I think also I think it's the Game of Thrones guy. That's why they have these names. They have Romulus, Remus, and then Khaleesi, which is a Game of Thrones name.
Gotcha.
And, they were all excited about it. What they did was they edited 20 genes into gray wolves, which I guess had 99.5% of the same DNA as what the dire wolf would have been. But the argument here in this write-up says they're not true dire wolves. Dire wolves have been extinct for 10,000 years, and they were genetically distinct from the gray wolves, diverging about 5 million years ago. He said the dire wolves were closer to jackals, not wolves themselves.
Jackal.
Okay, so we got what we call liar wolves.
Yes, I think so. Now, they said the animal's snowy coats, which you've seen, are even questionable because real dire wolves likely had darker fur that was suited to warmer, shrubby habitats.
It's all a lie?
It's all a lie. All of it, Virginia.
And they're saying behaviorally, these hybrids can't replicate dire wolves, social learning, lacking parents or ancestral environments too. So keep in mind that you think about that, your parents teach you something. So these wolves come in and they are not taught the ways of the dire wolf.
Gotcha.
So they're not going to behave like dire wolves actually did because they don't have that parental learning.
They're going to turn into Boz. bitch ass wolves because they ain't got that training.
And it says here, the effort, like a sci-fi vanity project, distracts from real conversation. Genetic tinkering can't replace lost ecosystems or species roles, and treating de-extinction, which is what they're calling it now, how they're going to bring all these, different animals back, as innovation, it risks excusing environmental damage and replacing real solutions with spectacle. So they think it's kind of a parlor trick. This isn't a great moment for science. This is just something that sci-fi people are nerding out on.
I trust Ron McGill.
Yeah, and these are other, people who are whatever they might be, biologists and they're not really sold on this. I don't think they're as pumped as some of these people at this colossal labs.
I wonder how old Ron McGill would feel if we brought the real life Jurassic Park to life.
I
don't know. He wouldn't like it.
I don't think he'd like
it. Sounds
that.
like he's not down.
He ain't down with the T-Rex coming back.
Well, I thought that was an interesting, perspective of, sometimes it's just your time. You need to go extinct. Your number's been called.
Did Ron McGill meet Indiana Cones?
No.
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 And even if he did, he doesn't fucking remember that. I barely remember that shit. No one even knows what you're talking about.
That was your Halloween costume when we were down there that year.
Yeah, okay. Now they know what you're talking about.
And something else that dog trainer Bailey had to say, she said, Kevin, I heard you talking about the dogs you grew up with and how they seem to know various words for walk, even spelling it out. She said that was simply due to classical conditioning. The dogs learned to associate going on a walk by watching you and listening to the sounds being made right before a walk happened. For instance, grabbing a leash, putting on shoes, grabbing dog bags, similar time of the day, etc. Which is why even with the verbal change up, it was still fairly easy to put together. The only thing about that was I remember my next door neighbor, he would always troll the dogs.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, let's go on. And so, but he wasn't making a move to get the leashes or anything like that.
He would just say it and they would go, oh.
Yeah, right. And he would just, freak them out for that. So, yeah.
I don't like that. I don't like being dicks to dogs for no reason.
Yeah, it was kind of a trolly mean ass thing to do.
Fuck that neighbor.
But she said over a period of time, those new clues become massive indicators that a walk would soon be happening due to the aforementioned nonverbal clues. With that being said, dogs are brilliant and largely communicate with each other through body language. They're watching us pretty much constantly. So while you may have felt like you were really changing things up by saying W-A-L-K, there's a very high chance you were still giving some clues as to what you meant. It's hard to say without being there and seeing everything. The one question I have, though, I even saw today, they had a border collie on. And who's the guy that loves all the planets? He has 3 names.
Neil, Tyson,
deGrasse, deGrasse Tyson. Yeah, he was on there and he was with this guy, has taken his border collie and he has all these little stuffed toys, 1,000 of them. And so Neil deGrasse Tyson was testing this dog and they had him in just a big old pile. And he would say the name of one of the 1,000 and the dog would go find that toy and bring it to him. And it never failed. He went through like 10 and the dog was going through the whole pile. And he would find that exact.
He was looking for specifically the duck.
But by name. He'd say, bring me Quacky. And he would go find it. So if they don't understand language, how does that happen? That a border collie can identify correctly 1,000 different toys.
Now, I'm impressed if you go, okay, make me a turkey sub. And all of a sudden it comes out with a turkey sub.
I'm very biased because I had a border collie, but those things were genius. Where a buddy of mine that had one too, it would go get him a beer.
Aww.
He had worked the dog. What he would do was on his refrigerator, he had a towel as a handle. And all of his beers he put in koozies. And so they're just sitting there on the shelf at a level where the dog could get. And he'd be like, beer. And the dog would go, open the fridge, grab him a beer or bring it to him and close the door.
Aww.
I'm like, that's so badass,
and then his next okay, now call AA.
Yeah.
This guy was very drunk.
Yeah.
All the time.
You got a problem.
Yeah, so she said, animals absolutely do communicate with each other, mostly through body language. When I said that they don't understand the English language, I was simply referring to the fact that they don't actually understand English as we know it, but have merely associated certain sights or sounds with a behavior. Okay. Well, there you go. Learn about the animal world today, huh?
And beer.
Yeah, and beer. Boy, I tell you, this Senator Robert F. Kennedy, man, he's possibly got some details coming out about his assassination attempt. And his son, RFK Jr., boy, quite the stories that had happened here. You know, they're trying to get all the records out about the Kennedy assassinations that had happened.
Right.
And now they're saying that they're going to be releasing in the next few days the remaining documents surrounding the assassination of Senator Robert F. Kennedy and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Wow.
Yeah. So we'll see what it is. Apparently, they have been basically just sitting in boxes somewhere for decades now at the investigation. Now, whether or not it actually lends itself to anything, because what's come up with the JFK, his uncle's assassination, is people feel a lot more convinced that the CIA and maybe even the vice president had something to do with that assassination.
Job.
Yes. So could there be anything in these documents? And they feel like it was all tied in to his brother, Robert F. Kennedy, and Martin Luther King Jr., that it might have all been part of the same syndicate that were pulling the strings on those.
Wow.
Which, what a time in American history, right? If they actually coordinated the assassination of those three individuals.
Unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what's in Area 51.
Yeah.
That's what I want, baby.
We know you do.
So
You should want that too.
I think I want the JFK and the Martin Luther King stuff before I want the alien stuff.
What would you want? You have a chance to get alien files, legit shit, or find out all the details about JFK and Martin Luther King. What do you go with?
aliens more impactful.
Dude,
Much more impactful.
aliens.
Because that affects the future. What we find out with the JFK, that only affects the past. And, look, I mean, we're getting to a point where we're probably part of the last old fuckers that give a shit about that thing. You talk to somebody, if I talk to my son or daughter, they'd be like,
Who?
You're right.
I don't give a shit. I don't know.
I don't give a fuck.
That doesn't mean a thing to me.
Seriously, Kevin is right. Us old fucks are going to die off and no one's going to talk about it.
And then they'll come out with the bombshell and the younger generation will be like, all right,
Whatever.
They won't even care.
Move along, boomer.
Yeah. And then the other big proclamation from RFK, he's the Health and Human Services Secretary. He said that he is going to disclose the case of autism by September.
Disclose the case of it?
Yeah, or the cause of it.
The cause of it.
That U is important.
Oh.
Yeah, the cause of autism by September. It's a developmental disability that causes differences in the brain, and he is going to instruct his people to get to the core root of it.
So that he believes there's one thing that causes it?
He's, argued a good bit, and that's why it's been controversial with him and the vaccines. He's talked about metals and some of the mRNAs and all that stuff that he believes causes it. But yeah, they want to know because he is saying that the numbers for autism is going up. He said it used to be so rare that a kid ever had autism. And he said now it's almost normal.
Wow.
If you look at where we were with the autism cases from in the past to now.
You hear a lot about it, a lot more than back when we were kids.
Yeah.
So what is it? Yeah. What's causing it?
It would be great. I hope that he can do it. Now, a lot of people think, he does whack science and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully he has reputable scientists and everything on this. But yeah, if somebody is really leaning on someone saying, hey, this kind of is a pressing issue, because there's something that we're doing. Now, obviously, you can see that the measles aren't great either, but, maybe we need to rethink this vaccine and how we're, alleviating this. And maybe there's a better recipe that we can come up with. So we're not also giving you autism as well as immunity from the measles. So, yeah, by September. That's a bold claim. We'll see if that winds up going down. So there we go. All right. Well, thank you for the emails. Always educational. We appreciate you taking the time. Mail at kvjshow.com. You can get them through to us. Hope you all have an amazing weekend. Go see Virginia. Is she going to be out and about?
Yeah, I'll be in tradition in Port St. Lucie for Burgers, Blues, and Brews with Maddie's Fight Foundation.
I'm telling you need to work on some burger zingers.
I do. I need to get some one-liners.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, some burger comedy. We'll get that going for you. All right, you guys enjoy your weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday. Goodbye.